In the leafy suburbs of Belfast, the imposing facades of these grand Victorian houses are here to stay. But what goes on behind the facade is quite another matter. Terry and Catherine McKenna were attracted to this smart area of Belfast in Northern Ireland 5 years ago. They liked the big houses with their big gardens and their genteel atmosphere that reminded them of another age. Terry is a successful retailer and Catherine is something of a design guru. But with 2 small children, the house soon proved a bit on the small side. Since they don't want to leave this part of town, the only answer is an extension. The obvious place? Round the back, in place of a collection of run-down outhouses. Terry and Catherine have commissioned the Belfast architect Des Ewing to design an ultra-modern extension which will give them much more space, and realise Catherine's vision of being able to see right through the house to the garden. Des is one of Northern Ireland's leading architects, a real master of all trades, who's able to turn his hand to any style.
That's why it'll be a little bit different on this case, because we know exactly what we're trying to achieve. We have a very clear aim, and I think we know how to get there.
Des Ewing is known as a man who doesn't hang around. He's a highly commercial architect who has dozens of projects on the go and has to have the organisation to match. It's the sort of setup which Terry and Catherine appreciate. Weather occasionally stops play, but generally the bricklayers are speeding through. The McKennas want to be in here by September. The extension is not the first scheme Des came up with. That was rejected by the planners as too modern. The alternative isn't quite so in your face, but Terry and Catherine are happy with it. You've got the gable end, the pitch roof, so you know you've definitely got the contemporary and the traditional Victorian styles.
It's certainly a softer approach, but I think it's an approach which doesn't compromise anything, and
it's got the same accommodation in it.
Yeah, still a livable space is going to be.
Yeah, and it's got the connection with the garden.
Behind the plans, there's a hidden problem. How do you connect a modern building, drawn up in metres, to a Victorian house set out in feet? That's the challenge for foreman Aidan McAllinden. I mean, it's difficult because you're dealing with an old house. So you're taking a bit of that away and then building this new bit.
That's right.
So probably the kind of the most difficult bit is cutting back into the old house. What do you think of the design?
Very, it's very good and very complicated, you know.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, you know. You have to get everything exactly right, how it does work in, you know.
Yeah.
But
there are some complicated overhangs and cantilevers and bits of steelwork in there. Have they presented any problems?
No, not really, no.
Just
I've done things like it before, but it's I love doing things like that, you know. It's a challenge, you know. But it is complicated because you're working into metric and into meters, you know, so on the old imperial brickwork, so you're working into different measurements. It's a challenge, you know.
And what about Des? Is he being demanding?
He's been very good now, you know. He's just you have to do everything exactly right, or you get told off, you know.
Except you have to do everything exactly as he says, and no other way. Well, that's understandable. That's what architects are there to do. On the face of it, this scheme appears quite humble, but that's deceptive. I think it's a skillful piece of architecture, and it's going to transform Terry and Catherine's lives. But architects, including Des Ewing, know that dealing with people who know what they like can be a mixed blessing.
When a client is like that, it can either make it more difficult or easier. In this case, it's easier because they can grasp very quickly what we're talking about, and they're also willing to try and do something different. Whenever we have a client who wants to do something different, we know we're going to be able to push the boundaries and come up with something that we find interesting and is going to be a better design at the end of the day. We also know that the building is going to be fitted and furnished to in continuity with the design of the house. Sometimes it's disappointing when you go back to look at some projects when the furniture is not really what you would have selected or you had imagined to go along with this. But
it's frustrating, isn't it? This kind of scheme gets ruined by the kind of rubbish furniture that's been handed down.
Yes, correct. That can happen, but I have confidence it's not going to happen on this occasion. We're going to see something that will add to the design rather than just detract from it.
It's May, and work on site is picking up speed. The McKennas hope to be moving in by September, But although this may appear to be a modest project, it has all the intricacies of building a small house, and the architect faces the same challenges. Plus, the Victorian house has been gutted and has to be redecorated. So this is more than your average extension. It's a renewal of a whole property to create a modern, light and airy home with two faces, a Victorian front and a 21st century back. These are the building bricks of Terry and Catherine's new life. Of course, the design will be transformed when the windows arrive. For the moment, it remains a shell, but I like projects at this stage. It allows us to see behind the scenes, and in this case, it gives us an insight into the way the old and the new meet. There are some awkward junctions, best seen up on the roof. Over the years, I've seen some pretty ugly collisions between existing houses and their extensions, but this is not one of them. While Terry and Catherine think about interior decoration, I'm meeting Des Ewing at his own house to find out how he's married the old and the new.
How long have you actually been here?
We've been here now 4 years. The house was an absolute wreck whenever we got it, which was ideal for us because we wanted to do something with it and really make it as fresh as possible. The original features were still here. They hadn't been tampered with, it hadn't been renovated, and you can just see the detail in this beautiful fan light. So items like that we have retained. Anything we've put new in has been a nice simple contemporary injection that hasn't interfered, I hope, with the traditional classic lines of the house.
This is Des's stock in trade, a classical house to which he adds the sort of space a family needs in this day and age.
And just down the road from Terry and Catherine's house is another of Des Ewing's designs.
It's quite a challenge in this part of the world, isn't it? I mean, how do you add floor area to traditional properties like this?
Yeah. Usually you'll find there's lots of old disused buildings at the back. They can be taken down. They're also blocking the sunshine.
So you've done a few of these before?
That's right, yes. This is one we did a couple of years ago. And similar sort of scenario, Victorian building, same sort of issues where there's a photograph of it before. And you can see the garage was at the back. We have little scullery areas, as they would call it here, and the garden is here with no connection to it. So this house is fortunate in that it gets the sun at the back of the house. What we did was try and create something that was really angled towards the sun, getting as much in there as possible, then giving an area that was sheltered and create a little sun trap for them to go out into. So it's the same sort of theory, and this is how it turned out. Dining area here, kitchen here, strong connection between them both. And then we step down into what is their living area. And here we have the connection with the garden, the height, the light, the openness, and this is what they hadn't got before. And they love living it. Everybody loves sunshine. They love the connection with the outside. That's why we wanted to bring this down to that level, rather than have steps going from it into the garden.
You can see it. It really transforms that darker, more dingy Victorian architecture into something that embraces the garden, embraces light. And there's a lovely sense of fluidity and interesting architectural spaces.
In this country, we're trying to get as much of the sun as we can, so that's why it is angled towards it. And then if you look outside, there's a butterfly roof. It goes the other way over the utility area, which is on the darker side of it. So it's all about sun and connection with outside.
It's lovely. It's really open, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's clever, this project. The refurbishment of Terry and Catherine McKenna's house looks, well, just the same from the front. The really exciting part is what's round the back, and I can't wait to see it. Terry, Catherine, lovely to see you.
How you doing, Oliver?
Good to see you.
And you? I've got to say, I'm immediately struck by your very, very vibrant front door.
Yeah, well, let's go inside and take a look.
There's quite a welcome here.
Here we are.
Lovely. Oh, I love the fact that you've kept quite a few of the original features, but wow, purple stairs.
Oh, yes.
The carpet looks lovely.
I like a bit of colour.
And immediately we're right into the new extension. It's such a lovely flow of spaces, isn't it?
Well, that was the idea, to get to see the back garden from the front door, so you've got the whole brightness.
I mean, those plate glass windows and the sliding doors obviously take you straight into the garden.
Yeah, we love it.
How have you found the whole building process?
Well, you took charge sort of from the beginning, really. I didn't have that much to do with it. Terry was here on site every day, and I think you relished it.
I found it a very enjoyable process. I think we've definitely got the balance right. You know, I could have left it too severe, whereas Catherine has definitely softened the edges down, you know. When
we first moved in here, we painted it like 5 years ago, very blandly, so it was always going to be a lot brighter, and that front room could take a good strong colour, and our bedroom as well. Although we wanted it calm, but the turquoise curtains give it a nice punch of colour.
And we're not afraid of colour either. We know, I think we know how to use colour in certain clever ways that sort of enhance the space. And
yes, because there's a danger that it can look childlike.
Yeah, or very garish. You know, you can go down that route. But
the painters were a bit concerned when they were painting the lime green strip around the bathroom, but then the more they saw it, they got used to it and they started to like it.
And I'm so pleased to see that the influence of our Copenhagen trip has paid off.
I know.
With the furniture.
We're very lucky to have acquired several pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I love the egg chair, and it's such a wonderful position there to look out over the garden. How have you felt about this transition between the old house and the new house?
Well, we've really embraced it, and certainly something that Catherine thought was very important was the view from the front door to the back of the house, which you get.
I always wanted that. I always had that vision in my head for it, but I think there were times we were a bit concerned, but we're really pleased with the way the old and the new have just gelled and sit really well together.
If I had to ask you one question, it would be, what do you think was the biggest success in the conversion?
Definitely the tying together of the old and the new. It's seamless and it all works. There's a nice flow to it. We could have ended up with an old house at the front and a square box at the back, but
we didn't,
it's been very successful, and that is a real joy.
Terry and Catherine have invested in a family home, and what a return they've got. It's vibrant, colourful and playful, yet because of this elegant floor-to-ceiling height and the use of classic design pieces, it feels sophisticated as well. It's a house that will serve them well through all stages of family life. And what more could you want from a dream home?